You've got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini, maybe Claude, and maybe Copilot. So you're prompting, you're getting outputs, you're watching the demos on YouTube and following the people who swear this tool changed your life. And you still feel like you're running in place. So here's what I need you to hear before we go any further today. That is not a tools problem. That is a thinking stack problem. And today, we're going to fix it. I'm Kim,
I'm Hal,
and this is Small Business, Big AI.
the podcast where we skip the hype and go straight to what actually matters for the people running real businesses in a world that just got a lot more complicated.
You got that right. So today, we're making a distinction that could change how you approach every AI conversation, every AI tool, and every AI decision from this point forward. Now, most business owners, they don't lack tools. They lack clarity on where AI creates leverage. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a system for that. And it's a whole lot simpler than you think. So 2 weeks ago, Hal and I were at the Small Business Expo in Orlando. And really, I want to tell you what I saw. Every session that had AI in the title, it was standing room only. People leaning against walls, they were sitting on floors, borrowing chairs from the hallway.
These were not developers or tech people. These were restaurant owners, insurance agents, contractors, real estate professionals, people running real businesses with real problems.
That's right. And the energy in those rooms was something far more complicated than excitement. It was this combination of excitement and overwhelm. Like people could sense that something significant was happening, but they couldn't quite get their arms around it. So after one session, I kind of started talking with people, and I kept hearing the same thing. Not, I don't know what AI is.
Because they know
True.
and they have the tools.
Yeah, they have them, Hal. So what I kept hearing was, I use this every day, and I still can't figure out how to make it actually change anything.
And that is a very specific kind of frustration because it's not frustration of someone who hasn't tried. It's the frustration of someone who's been trying and can't understand why results don't match the effort.
Exactly. And I think that gap between effort and result is really one of the most important problems in small business AI adoption right now, Hal, because it keeps people stuck at a level of use that will never produce the outcomes that they're looking for.
In my experience working with businesses through the SBTM framework, this is the systematized gap. You stabilize, you know AI is real, you've experimented, you've gotten some wins, but you haven't built the architecture yet. And without architecture, you're just prompting your way through problems one at a time.
Oh, I see what you did there. Okay, that is the perfect setup for what I want us to talk about today. So here's what I keep noticing. People think prompts are strategy, but they're not. Prompts are just how you touch the tool. That's it. The capability and what it actually does inside your business, now that's something else entirely. That's design, not prompting. And I don't think people see that yet. So think about word processing for a second. When it first showed up, most businesses just typed their memos faster. Same memo, same thinking, just faster fingers. Now, that was level one. Then a few companies, they started noticing something. They weren't just typing faster. They could redesign how communication actually moved. Template standards, less back and forth. Now, that changed operations. So that was level two. And eventually, some organizations stopped thinking about documents altogether and they built systems, routing, approvals, automation. Now, the document wasn't the work anymore, the system was. That was level three. And here's the strange part. Even then, some businesses were still just typing the same memos faster and wondering why the revolution never showed up for them.
That part feels uncomfortably familiar right now because most businesses I see with AI, they're using something completely new to do the same old tasks, just a little faster. And then they measure the value by how fast the memo got typed.
I mean, exactly. So here's the way I've started thinking about it, not as tools, but as layers. The AI thinking stack has three levels. Level one is prompt intelligence. So, this is where you learn how to talk to the machine, what context helps, what structure works. It matters, but it's still just tactical. You're having a better conversation. You're not designing anything yet. So then there's level two. Now, this is where something shifts. You stop starting from zero. So you build context, standards, templates. You stop prompting and start designing how thinking happens. Now that's leverage. Then there's level three. This is where AI disappears into the operation. It handles intake, drafts communication, routes information, triggers workflows. So you're not in every conversation anymore. The system is. You are the engineer. AI is the engine.
And that maps almost perfectly to the SBTM. Stabilize is level one. You're figuring out what's real, testing it, breaking it. Systemize is level two. Now you're designing architecture, standards, consistency. Scale is level three. The system runs, you steer, and you can't skip steps. You just can't. Level three thinking doesn't work with level one mindset.
Right, because you can't systematize something you haven't actually thought through. And that's the part that people miss. So I had this conversation at the expo that stuck with me. A woman came up after a session, event planning company, 10 people, sharp operator. She had done everything right. I mean, courses, tools, using ChatGPT daily. And she said, I'm getting help with tasks, but I'm not getting leverage. So then I asked her one question. And when you open ChatGPT in the morning, what are you trying to accomplish? And really, she didn't hesitate. She said, I usually need something written and fast, like emails, proposals, social. And I said to her, so you're using a thinking partner to write documents faster. And she laughed and she said, yes. So then I asked, how long does it take you to train a new assistant to write proposals your way? And she thought for a second and she said, hours, sometimes days, rewriting everything. And then I said to her, that's your level two project. You don't need better prompts. You need architecture. Capture how you think about clients, discovery, structure, standards. And then once that exists, AI can do what the assistant couldn't.
That's right there. That's the difference. Using AI is transactional. Deploying AI is architectural. One is task, the other is systems.
And the interesting thing, the architecture work isn't really AI work at first. It's thinking work. So, what do I actually know about this process? What are my standards? What would someone need to understand to do this like me? AI can't answer that. But once you can, AI executes it faster and more consistently than almost anyone you could hire. So here's the simplest way I know to figure out where you are. If you're at level 1, your next move isn't a new tool. It's a context document. Who you are, what you do, who you serve, what good looks like. Now that becomes the foundation. And if you're at level 2, look for repetition. One workflow, clear pattern. That's your level 3 candidate. Not everything, just one. Now, if you're at level 3, measure it. Where is it working? Where does judgment still matter? Then pick the next system.
And the sequence matters. Each level makes the next possible. Level 1 gives clarity. Level 2 gives structure. Level 3 gives scale. It's sequential, not optional.
And the honest truth, most businesses are still at level 1, but the market isn't. And not because everyone's figured it out, because they haven't. Because the tools, they are accelerating. The businesses building architecture right now, they're building the moat.
Let me say something plainly. Most businesses right now are using AI backwards. They start with tools, they experiment with prompts, they chase whatever feels efficient in the moment, and then they wonder why nothing sticks. Here's what I've learned. AI doesn't fail in businesses because of capability. It fails because of sequencing. In the simplest way I explain sequencing is through what I call the Small Business Transformation Model. SBTN is just a way of putting the work back in the right order. Not tools first, not prompt first, structure first. Because most operators don't lack tools, they lack clarity on where AI actually creates leverage. And once you see the order clearly, the overwhelm starts to drop.
So I want to tell you what this actually looks like in practice. Not theory, but practice. Now, as many of you listening know, I am opening a new AAA insurance agency in Lake Nona, Florida. And from day one, I am making a deliberate decision that this agency will be AI native, not AI assisted, but AI native. Now, that means I'm not asking, how can I use AI to help me do my job? I'm asking, what would this operation look like if AI were embedded in every stage of the operation? Customer communication, team onboarding, compliance documentation. Every one of those processes is getting mapped through all 3 levels of the thinking stack before we even open the doors. And it's not because I have extra time, because I don't, not right now, but because building it right the first time is cheaper than retrofitting it later. And here's what I'll tell you about that process. It is revealing exactly where human judgment is irreplaceable and where AI can own the workflow. And that distinction, knowing which is which, That is level 3 thinking.
And that's the work. That's the actual work of the systemized phase, not picking tools, but mapping judgment. Where does a human need to be in a loop? And where do we just create friction by staying in it?
And most businesses won't do this, Hal. And I understand why. Because it requires stopping the day to day long enough to think architecturally. But the businesses that do this now, they will have an advantage that compounds. Every month they run on an AI native system, the gap between them and their competitors grows. So here's your one action for this week. I want you to pick one process in your business, just one. Something you do repeatedly, something that follows a pattern, something that you've probably taught to someone else before. Now, run it through the 3 levels. Again, that's level 1. Can AI help you complete this task faster right now? What would you need to tell it? And look at level 2. What context would make AI more effective at this every time? What would a context document for this process contain? And then we look at level 3. What would it take for AI to handle this without you in the loop? So you don't have to build level 3 this week. Just map it. Because the moment you map it, you'll see exactly what's standing between where you are and where you could be.
And if you get stuck at level 2, if you can't describe what the context document would contain, that's important information. It means you haven't fully articulated how you do this thing, which means you couldn't delegate it to a human either. The AI just showed you a gap that existed before you started asking.
And that's the power of this framework. Small steps, big changes. Now that's it for today's episode of Small Business, Big AI. Thanks so much for tuning in.
If this gave you a new way to think about where you are in AI, share with one business owner in your network who needs to hear it. That's how this show grows.
And until next time, keep embracing change. Keep innovating.
Keep building your technology-enabled superpower.
And this has been
Small
Business, Big AI. We'll catch you in the next episode.